Hello, Aquarius. Welcome to your June 2023 astrological forecast. If you are new here, my name is Jane. So let's take a look. It is Gemini season as we come in through June. As we make our way to the end of June, we move into Cancer season. And for you, Gemini is in your fifth house. Now, you may be feeling this energy a lot already, but I think it's going to be amplified when Mercury comes into the fifth house, which is happening on the 11th. Okay, when Mercury comes into Gemini, he is in his sign of rulership. The sun really likes to be in the fifth house, The sun really likes to be in the fifth house. Mercury loves to be in Gemini, and I think you just have a really happy fifth house this month. It's a happy fifth house, creation, play, allowing yourself to let that inner child come out. If there's anything entertaining, right? If there's any, I always think of fifth house as being like getting some jet skis and going to the lake or something. That's always fifth house energy to me. Skipping a day off work, going off and having fun, being with people that you love. There's a lot of dating that comes through here as well. So if you're single and you want to go out there and meet people, this is probably a good time to do that. I really like that Mercury, he's traveling fast now. As he's finishing out his transit here in Taurus over the next several days, he is dragging a little bit. So if you've been feeling draggy over the past week or 2 weeks or so, I think Mercury is getting really, really tired of that density of Taurus. And he wants to move into Gemini and really speed things up because he is going to move through Gemini super, super fast. In general, Gemini is a fast sign. So this is a time when things can move very quickly. If you are out there falling in love with people or a person, if you are out there meeting and falling in love, probably there's a little bit of a tumble into that, into that kind of love nest energy, okay? And it can be really pleasurable and it can be really fun. We also had Venus enter Leo a few days ago as well. She came into this opposition with Pluto. She's coming off of it now. And this opposition with Pluto, I think, is really asking Aquarius to not only look at the things that they value, but specifically to look at the things they value within partnerships. Yes, this definitely includes romantic partnerships, but it doesn't have to. If there's any kind of professional or contractual agreement that you have with someone, with a boss or a client or something like that, this is a time for you to really reevaluate and say, are my needs getting met? Am I tiring out? Is this getting old? Do I need to change something? Do we need to bring something new in? Like, what is it that needs to evolve? Because that's what Pluto really demands here. What is it that needs to evolve so that we can move into a new space? Okay, so that we can get ourselves to the next chapter. Now, Venus, I just want to be clear, okay, Venus is not retrograding in June, but she is retrograding in July. She does enter her pre-shadow phase this month though. Okay, when she gets to that 12-degree mark of Leo, this is her officially, she's in pre-shadow. Okay, so pre-shadow, for those who don't know, is the time before her retrograde. Okay, so a lot of the retrograde themes have a tendency to come out. Seventh house is an interesting house because we often associate it with marriage, and therefore we have a more positive look at it. And so if you are married, this is a time for readjustment within the marriage. It's, again, to reevaluate the way things are going, like I just talked about. But there's also a lot of karmic adjustment that happens in the seventh house too, where if something has gotten too far out of balance or too far out of whack, those scales really do come crashing into that equilibrium. And sometimes that can be very abrupt. So Aquarius, if there are things that you are avoiding or you're suppressing or you're not allowing yourself to admit or to say or something like that, chances are Venus is going to push you to make sure that you come to a place of truth. Okay? And sometimes that can be welcome and sometimes it's not so welcome. I actually do see a lot of tower energy with the seventh house, especially when we have a retrograde, like a Venus retrograde coming on in the seventh house. Okay, so it's just something to be aware of. It doesn't mean anything bad is going to happen. It's just that if you are avoiding or if you're lying to yourself in some capacity, or you're trying to convince yourself of something, Venus retrograde, she's going to do her work of justice. Okay, she's not only a planet associated with the zodiac sign of Taurus, but she is also associated with the sign of Libra. And Libra is very much about justice, okay? And I mean, it's literally the justice card in the tarot deck is the card of Libra. So we have to be aware that sometimes seventh house can bring out some harsh realities, but it is for the sake of making your life better. It's for the sake of your life standing on firm ground so that you're not standing on some kind of quicksand, delusion or something. Okay, it's going to bring you into a reality. It's going to illuminate that reality. And especially with it being in Leo, which demands authenticity and realness and demands that higher intelligence, seeing as how it is ruled by the sun. It demands a channel for the soul. And if there is any blockage for you, okay, if there's any blockage of that soul, it's gonna not be able to really last. Okay, the Venus retrograde is gonna be a big one. I'm kind of excited about it for a lot of people because it's always a time for us to come back to truth. We also have Mars in Leo this month as well, and he's gonna be adding to all of it. He's gonna, he's kind of trailblazing here. Now, Venus is gonna come really close to Mars, but she's not going to officially come into that conjunction, meaning she's not coming exactly in contact with Mars. This month, Mars will always be just a little bit ahead of Venus. And with him being ahead of Venus, he's kind of trailblazing, carving a path for her to do her work. It's kind of like if you were out in a jungle somewhere and you had someone out front with their little machete cutting a trail so you could all get through. You're still going through the jungle, but there is something, at least for you to work with. So all the things that come out are likely going to be themes for the next couple of months. She will be retrograde end of July, August, September, and finishes off in early October. Okay. So that's Venus. We also have Saturn retrograde happening, which is really important because it's traditionally one of your ruling planets. Saturn retrogrades in your second house on the 17th. And when Saturn retrogrades in the second house, this is really asking you to reevaluate. I don't want to use the word reevaluate. I guess I would use that more for Venus. I think with Saturn, the word we should use is to realign, because Saturn in the second demands kind of a moral and soulful alignment with what it is you're doing for money. Okay? And if you're at a job that you hate, a Saturn retrograde can be really tough. This can be one of those times when you wake up in the morning and you would literally do anything that you possibly could do to not go into work today, right? Because that Saturn retrograde sometimes internalizes the obstacles, and it's like you have to work extra hard, and it can be so energetically draining, but you have to work extra hard sometimes to just kind of keep your life going on track if you are associated or doing something that you don't like, or it doesn't feel like your heart is really engaged with it. Sometimes the Saturn retrograde can bring out the battle of the selves, right? There's the self that knows you got to go to work, you got to earn the money, you got to do what you got to do. But then there's that part of you that wants to just go live in a forest and read books all day, right? There's the two conflicting things there. And it can be really hard to reconcile during this time. But what that tells you is where your heart truly is. And I don't think this is going to be a grass is greener on the other side, right? It's not like you're yearning for something just because it's different. It's that you're yearning for something different because you're not necessarily living your soul's desire. Okay, now some people are better equipped to deal with that than others. Some people are like, well, it's what I got to do. It's for my future. It's for my retirement. I want to live a life like no one else lives, that type of thing. And they can have that more self-discipline. And if that's you, then this will be an easier transit. But if it's not you, this will be a little bit more of a challenging one. Now, Saturn retrogrades every year, so it's not like it's a big deal or anything. It happens all the time. But, it's just those times when all those energies start to internalize that it can be a little bit tough. We also have the activation of Cancer season on the 21st. Happy solstice to everybody. That's going to activate your 6th house. Now, this will be a little bit more supportive of the Saturn stuff because the sun will be in a trine with Saturn, which is a harmonious relationship. So the sun can kind of feed the Saturn retrograde. 6th house is also a house of work too. So I do think you're just really focused on work. You're focused on what you do for money, you're focused on your habits, you're focused on what you do on a day-to-day life. Mercury is going to enter the 6th house as well on the 26th. But then on the 30th, we have a Neptune retrograde. Now, with Cancer and Neptune retrograde, this is a highly emotional time. Please do not think that if you're having heightened states of emotion near the end of June that something is wrong with you. Nothing is wrong with you, okay? Stuff needs to come out. And if you are in a process of realigning with this Saturn retrograde, then this is a good thing because when your emotions come out, they tell you something. They tell you when something is not aligned. They tell you when something isn't right. They tell you when you're not happy. They tell you a lot of things. So you just have to pay attention to what your emotions are telling you. And you can let it out. You can talk if you need to, but I think really just let it out in any way that you need to. Suppressing it and pretending like it doesn't exist is going to be really hard to do, okay? This can also impact, just kind of the way you deal with other people. Sometimes it can be frustrating, especially for you with all the 7th house. There's a lot of one-on-one relationships that are accentuated. So dealing with other people, there can be massive mismatches between what you're experiencing and what they're experiencing. And you're like, whoa, what the heck is going on? Like, we're so not on the same page. We need to just really talk about it. I like communication this month and even on in through July. I like communication. There's a lot of positive communication things because Mercury is moving quickly. All right, so if you do need to talk stuff out, this is a good time to do it if you need to just hash out the issue, okay? Last one, I kind of skipped over it. I'm going to go back in time a little bit onto the 11th. Same day that Mercury comes into Gemini, we also have this Pluto retrograding back into Capricorn. Now, I tried really, really hard in March when Pluto came into Aquarius to remind you that he'll dip back into Capricorn. Okay, so now here he is dipping back into Capricorn already. It's only been a couple of months with him in your sign. We got a little bit of a taste of what that was going to be like. But now we go back, and I've been saying this, I've pretty much said this in everyone's video, that when he dips back into Capricorn on the 11th and beyond in the months following while he is in Capricorn, this is an opportunity for things of the past to resurface. Now, it is not a time for you to fall backwards into the past. It's more to show you how far you've come. So, if someone from your past comes back, if an issue from your past comes back, like for you in the 12th house, maybe there's an illness or something, right? You thought you were doing really well, and then all of a sudden, you have a flare-up or something like that. Your numbers aren't that great, whatever the case is. Okay, it is not the end of the world, and it's not to worry. But what it is to just show you how far you've come, how much you've learned, how much you've grown, and showing you like really how different you actually are. The example I'm using for this is, let's say you were madly in love with someone 10 years ago. It didn't work out. They broke your heart, betrayed you, whatever. You tried to move on, and it was really, really, really hard to do it. Well, what if with this Pluto retrograde, this person comes back and you see who they became, and you realize how lucky you were that that did not work out. Now, in your mind, you may have already come to that conclusion. In your mind, in your heart, you're like good with where you are. You're good with the lessons that you learned. But sometimes we don't need it, but sometimes it's nice to have that being shown to us. Look at what your path could have been. And look at how the universe protected you, or look at how you protected yourself. And I think that's kind of what this Pluto retrograde is going to do for us on a personal, individualized level. It's just going to show us. And he's going to do it again next year. So this is kind of a slow detachment from the past and a slow embrace of the future, where we are slowly replacing the past with the future. Okay, it's a very slow replacement process that's going on here. Okay, so that is the gist. I know I'm a little bit late on these, as always. I don't know why I struggle to get these out so much. I'm thinking maybe I should just do these like in the middle of the month instead, and between like the 15th and 15th of the month. I struggle doing like the tarot and the astrology for some reason. It's like two completely different mindsets, and then I don't know, it's hard for me. So anyway, I might do that for July. So anyway, thank you guys all so much. You guys know I love and adore you. Have a fantastic month, and I'll talk to you soon. Take care.